but now we're going to get into how to make HTTP requests in JavaScript and doing all that stuff. So,
that's called
hey, sorry, come on, man. So, so in JavaScript, we're going to talk about like asynchronous. This is like directly related to HTTP requests and everything. Does anybody, can someone tell me what asynchronous means?
I think I can.
What's it? Yep, go ahead, Jordan.
It sounds like what I was going to say.
I mean, we're talking about just the actual word. I defer to you.
Loads up after everything else loads up.
Loads up.
Doesn't load up as soon as it's
Not at the
ready.
same time. So
It's
asynchronous means not.
The way I understand it, when you establish a CPI connection, you have the same
Async portion, just in general, like what does async, like, I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So you have CPI establishing the same,
The sync, yeah.
sync,
Okay. Async. Sorry. Do you have?
Oh, it's the actual meaning of the word. That's it.
Not at the same time.
Not at the same time. So async, I'm just going to bring up a quick file right here. So in JavaScript, does everything load up at the same time or not at the same time?
In JavaScript.
Yeah, so when I'm running this file right here, this function, at what order does everything run?
Line by line.
So after this line is done, it's going to run this line, then it's going to run it, and then it's going to run this.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't reach separate.
So,
JavaScript does not, it runs in whatever order it can run fastest.
right. So,
Unless you explicitly tell it otherwise.
so I'm going to run this code. What do you expect to happen?
First, third, second.
Yeah, I think first, third, second.
Let's see. Right there. Node async. First, third, second. So first, then this one starts running, and then we have the set timeout that delays it by 1/100th of a millisecond, and then this one, then console log runs. So first, third, second. And you see asynchronous code happen all the time when you're browsing Google Maps, Twitter, anything like that. So when you scroll to the bottom of the page, all of a sudden, like more like tweets or more comments come out. That's asynchronous. It's not loading right away.
The asynchronous behavior of JavaScript by diagram is so different.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yep. Yeah. So that's a good point. And so when you're making a post request or a GET request, say you're liking a post on Facebook or Twitter, what do you think's happening underneath the hood? Like when you're clicking that post, that like button, do you think you're sending a request to Facebook server and they're posting that the fact that you liked it to their server, and then you think it's sending a response to the front end, and then the front end is changing the indication that you're liking something? Or do you think that when you're clicking that like button, the front end just automatically makes it look like you liked it, and then it waits to like actually post a request? Does it make the change on the front end at the same time that it makes the post request?
So that's the second one sounds right.
I think it's the first one you said.
So
You said JavaScript runs as fast as whichever it can run fastest. You do the front end to be faster.
So it makes the change on the front end.
Front end first.
So it makes a change on the front end, and then it makes the post request. Then it goes back, and then it actually makes like the server say like, "Hey, this is a like post." Or yeah. So generally, that's probably a good assumption. However, where can there be some discrepancy if that happens? So like when you make what's that?
Latency.
Latency. So on the front end, it changes right away that you liked it, but on the back end, there might be an error. So like the front end and the back end don't match up. So if you would refresh, that like post will no longer be liked because it's grabbing that data, like data.
Yes.
And it also depends on the server loads, how many people are actually clicking on the thing and if you really want to get into the weeds of it, you've got multiple caches of it, and when you're updating the cache, and when does it actually update the actual page, and that's probably way more than you need to
Right. So this is an actual thing I had at my last job. We were redoing our entire community. I'm just going to refresh it. We have our network here in the Chrome developer tools, all these requests coming through. I'm just going to clear it right now. And we had a meeting about how we want to display a liked post, like a like right here. Did we want to change the front end right away to make it look like it's liked, and then make the post request like at the same time? Or wait till we actually send the post request, get a response from the server, and then show that it's liked?
For user experience, it'd probably be better to at least show them something up front.
Show up front right away, right? So this is like a meeting. We literally had a meeting. Like, how should we do this anyway? But watch what happens when I like this button. Watch how long it kind of takes. See that? So we decided to do it synchronously. We sent the post request, and then we get a response back from the server, and then we changed the like button. So let's examine what the headers look like. So this is the actual post request. It's a post request. Here are the general headers. Here's the response headers. You got a status, okay, 100. Here's the request headers. We did a post request. This is the URL we're actually making the request to. So on the back end, it's nothing up here, it's just to the server or to our back end. This is the URL, the path. And then here's the preview of what's actually being pushed out there. So we have the ID. I think that could be like the comment ID, the type. This is just data that we chose to decide to push towards the back end. What kind of impression, the user, the name, and the avatar. And this is also like the preview and the response are kind of the same thing. So this is considered synchronously. So it's happening one at a time.
The benefit is accuracy.
Yeah, it's like single, like it's true. Like the request will always be true. Like the front end and the back end will always match up. So same with Google Maps. When you're loading a map around, when you're zooming out, like it could take a little while to load everything. When you're zooming in, it might take a little while to re-render and stuff like that. So, but how do we do this in JavaScript? So how do we do code or do synchronous code in JavaScript instead of everything happening at kind of like the same time? So after you're done with one function, then you execute another function. So when you're sending a post request to the server, then you have to wait till that server gets a response, and then you send something back to the server. So instead of sending something back, or you press a button and a bunch of stuff goes all at the same time, you have to wait for a response, like some kind of response from the server, and then send that data back. In the past, we used jQuery to make like AJAX calls. Early on, when I was first learning, this is what we call like AJAX requests. But in JavaScript, they have this fetch API that allows us to make their synchronous code to make both the GET requests and POST requests. So the fetch API enables you to customize the type of data you are sending to the server, like in the HTTP requests or HTTP responses. Let's look at it. So it comes with this built-in method fetch. How does it work? So the resource, this is generally the URL that you're gonna that you actually are trying to push to, or
Server side.
Yep, server side. Yep. And this is some kind of data that you want, like some other information that you want to send through. Let's get into the actual lecture. So getting data with fetch. So I'm going to delete this, and then I'm going to create, let's say, this looks like HTML, touch index.html. What else do I need? Let's modify a script.js file. So it looks like I need a script.js file as well. .js. Upload script.js. Can I open them both at the same time? Cool. So I'm just going to copy and paste this HTML in here. And before I do anything with the script, I'm going to open up the index.html. So here's my web page. There's really nothing going on. There's no network requests or anything like that. Let's split the screen here. And then go back to the curriculum. We're going to use our fetch API to actually do our GET request. So this is the overall architecture of how a fetch API works. Let's just deconstruct what this script is doing. So are you guys familiar with like document dot get element by ID, get element by something? We're using query selector. And in here, we're grabbing the response data. So class. So we're grabbing a query dot response data, which matches up to this class. And it's an empty div right now. So
And if it were an ID, you'd use a hashtag still.
think so. So the fetch method, we don't have to import anything. This is just built in JavaScript with MDN. So we have this URL, JSON placeholder type code. Let's look at what this URL does. Exit out, let's sign out. So I'm just literally going to this. Okay. Did anybody who saw my Slack message to download JSON parser? Did you guys do it? Anything? Yeah.
It asked for something, I couldn't figure out what it was telling me, the window, and
For dev tools, right?
Yeah.
something, tools or
So
something,
it's like up here. It's Chrome section. Anyway, it'll make it look, when you're looking at JSON, JavaScript object notation, it's a type of file that enables JavaScript to read stuff from the front end. This is what that link goes to. It's literally just JavaScript, a JSON type of file. Has a user ID 1, ID of 1, has a title, key, some weird stuff, completed equals false. So it's coming here, and let's actually refresh what happens, because when you load the HTML file, it automatically loads the JavaScript, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it loads the HTML file, comes into here, the script tag, or the script file, grabs the response data, and it sets it to a variable called response container. It's going to this URL and grabbing this data right here. And then we do a dot then. So it's like dot then. So this is a function, it's a method, just like any method that you'd write in Python or JavaScript, or any function that you write in JavaScript. And so once it does this, then it's going to run this other function. It's called response. This is generally what that stands for, response. So it gets the response back from the HTTP request. It's the response of it. And then it runs it through a JSON like formatter. And then it runs another, what the JSON looks like. and then it grabs the title from this. So I haven't reloaded the page yet, but what if I would reload it and runs all that? Did it do anything? Uh-oh.
Spelled the variable wrong.
Where's that?
Content.
Oh, thank you. Let's see what happens now. There we go. Let's see what's actually happening. Let's see what this response looks like. So I'm going to console log the response. So I need to, this might throw an error. I have the response. Return. Refresh. Here's the response. This is what that looks like. We have a body, we have some headers, we have a redirect, we have a status, we have a type, then we also have a URL. But if we do, so then it returns the response.json, and then with the JSON, essentially it's like the JSON formatter. Let's console log JSON. That's what we actually get back when we when we grab the JSON data from the response. So this is the first response, like the response we get. Then we run it through another .then to get the actual data of what we want. So let's look at all that. I'm just going to go back all the way. And that's what we get. What questions do you have?
So the response container. Yeah, I just there's some things that are fuzzy.
Oh, sorry.
I could very easily replicate what you're doing, but I'm still like not sure why everything's happening.
So the fetch, this is like the URL of the data. This is going to an external source through the HTTP request. You're going to this URL right here. And then the response is what you're getting back from, let's see what the network does. We have so right here, the headers, this is like the headers and the preview of the response. I'll look at like more specific into the fetch API. It's more about promises. So you do a .then, then we get the total response, and then we format it into this .json, run it through this .json method.
So the JSON's formatting the HTML at that point.
Yeah.
There's the output.
Yeah.
The return, whatever it's called.
Yeah, it's like it's grabbing the specific data from like the JSON from that response.
Why is JSON used in CSS? Isn't it doing the same thing a CSS file would do? Say this part I don't understand.
No, we're not grabbing styling or anything. We're actually grabbing data from like a server or an API.
Oh, okay.
So we're not grabbing like specific styling. And from like a CSS perspective, like CSS doesn't have any, like it can apply styling, but it can't actually grab like, actual values of data that we want.
Oh, but so the values of data are stored in the JSON file?
Yeah, it's actually right here at this location, this URL. This is actual data.
Oh,
It's grabbing it. I don't even know. Does this do anything? So you look at ID2, ID3. These are all stuff. So if I wanted to change So let's look at other APIs that we can like.
Okay.
I just like. So here's like an example of one. Let's look at this. Where's the actual format of this? Longitude, right here. So if I go to this specific API, some JSON, this is just how they want to grab it. That's what that looks like. So let's just, I haven't done this before, let's just throw this in here. It's probably going to throw an error because of this area right here, because it probably doesn't have a title. Might have to be results. Let's just take a look. And like console log what type of data we can grab. Response, we have results. So results dot day length. So JSON dot title JSON results dot day length. This might not work just because of it's concat right there. Oh, worked. So it's going here, it's grabbing this response, it's grabbing like the JSON API, streams, read, completion, and returns a promise that resolves the parsing the body text as JSON. So right here, it's this whole thing. If we just did JSON, I don't know what's going to happen. Let's see what happens. It's just an object, right? So if I do results, it's probably going to be an object as well. Yep. But if I grab the actual key, day length, there we go. So results, day length, sunrise, we can do sunrise. So almost all the time, we're going to have to do two dot thens. Get the response from it, and then we grab the JSON from the body, and then this is the actual data that we can use and do stuff with on the front end.
If you wanted to, you could actually write a parsing function and then that took the whole thing.
Yep.
Remove it out and
Like right here, like
yeah.
right, we can write up some kind of method that
that iterates through the JSON object and for each key appended to a string and then making an object that string.
Yep. Yeah. So in here, you can do perform logic, and you will be doing this. Like when you are developing an app, you're going to parse the data the way you want it, and you're going to have to kind of choose where do you want to do this, like this logic. You want to do it on the back end on the server side, or you can do it on the front end. Just it's all just about what's.
It depends on what APIs you're using as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't always like just kind of like a decision that your team wants to make if you want to perform additional logic.
so the APIs are essentially just a store of data. They just store information. What is the
An API is an interface or a standardized way of getting access to information
from a server or database.
So it's not a database. It's not like a
It's
store.
a standardized way of getting access to the information.
Yeah.
How does
So
it do that? Is it using?
it's using a route, just like so. This route is going to a database
passing the information to latitude and longitude, and then
And looking up.
and I'm assuming that if the server in there is running a specific query off of the database, at the other end, it's parsing it, generating an object, passing that object back to you in the format of the base object.
When you actually pull up the API, then, like where is that? How does so this doesn't reflect exactly what you're talking about. This is just like key value pairs.
Because this is what's being
Yeah,
passed
this is
back.
Being passed back to you. All of that is being done by some other server that you're not responsible for. And the API is the standardized way of access of querying and getting information from the server.
But it's not generating query language. It's just feeding the information to some other function that's querying the database, right?
Yeah, it's feeding information to some server. That server takes the information that you've had, uses that information to generate a query, queries the database, takes back the query from the database from that other server, formats it back into a JSON, and then sends the JSON back to you.
Yeah.
So that you never have to actually see the entire database. You only see the piece that you care about.
So when we're building a server,
Yep.
we're going to be building our own APIs.
Yes.
too, okay.
And when you're working on the front end and back end, when your application, you're going to create APIs like routes similar to this that's going to go into your database and perform some function. It's going to go to a route, and then when you're actually building your application, it's going to come here. Then you're going to perform some database query to grab the data based off of what this value is. So if you want to get all posts from a specific user in this API request, there's going to have some information in this portion that's going to have maybe like the user ID or what type of data you want. Just some indication. It could be anything really. And then based off of it coming to this route, it's going to do some database querying and grab the data and then push it back.
So
Similar to what's going on here. So I'm going to this URL, and it's going to their server, going to their server side, doing some query, then the result, they're pushing this back to the front end. Right
based
here.
on that lat long,
Yep.
this is all the information pertains to that.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep.
For
No,
that standardized API.
Yeah.
There may be more information in the database, but this is what that particular API gives you, that particular set of information.
So that's what this is. And this is coming back to here and then us serving it up to the front end. So I'm just going to go back. There we go. Just want to refresh. So that's how we do a GET request. We grab it going to this API and the server. We're doing a query. It's coming back, and we're serving it up right here. So returns a promise. A promise is something that enables you to essentially do synchronous code or one right after the next. That's what a promise is. Let's look at this is all in the lecture notes. Now let's do a GET request or a POST request. So we have this online, this tool that we can, record requests and fake responses. So we want to send something that's different. Oh. So it's going to come in here. We're going to actually grab like a body, parse the body, and actually return something. And then the response.body, we'll see. Cool. Let's build a simple post, something that we can actually post in our HTML to post some different data and get a response of that posted data to the database. So I'm just going to do under here. I've got this form. input, and we have a button. So it looks like name. This button is going to submit this name. Let's refresh our JavaScript. So we got something here. Tom, nothing really happens. This is the response from here. I'm just going to comment this out. Come back here. Tom. So it's actually not posting anything for the network. We just have this GET request that automatically runs. It's not posting anything. Let's go back to the curriculum. Here we go. Similar to this code, we're going to do some JavaScript. We're grabbing the query, we're grabbing the comment form, we're selecting the post response ID. Okay, I'm just kind of seeing what's going on here. So something, it looks like we're going to like add something in here. We're adding an event listener, submit to form, and we can add an event listener in JavaScript. When a submit button is clicked, we're going to run a function. E.prevent default just makes it not like, actually I forgot what prevent default does, but name event dot target elements at index 0 dot value. This is essentially just grabbing the name of the input or of this information. Where the hell did that go? It's just grabbing that information. This e.target elements, index of 0 dot value. It's literally just going to be whatever I put right there.
What if you put a space then? Or we have like some, would it still be at 0?
Yeah, yeah. So right here, paste the URL for your PostScript bucket. That's the application we're using to fake a response from a server. Or, yeah, so this is what that is. That's what this URL is. So we're going to make a post request to this URL. So fetch endpoint, which is the URL. We're adding some additional data right here. We're adding a method of a post. We're adding some headers. And then we're having JSON.stringify comment. So this is a method that will send it over via JSON. Then kind of the same. Then we're gonna get a response from this. So what we're doing, we're taking our comments. Once we click submit, it's grabbing that data, which is like whatever the comment is. We're going to do a fetch at this API, and it's going to have a body of the comment, like a stringified JSON of the comment. And then we're going to get a response. So it's going to come over. So we're posting to this API endpoint. And then let's look at the logic of when it comes into here. We have data.hello-world. We have body request. This is the request dot body, which will be it's parsing that comment. Then if request dot body, like if this exists, it's going to do message dot data equals hello body name. And then it's going to return this response dot body equals this hello world, or I'm sorry, hello, and then the name of what I posted in the comment. Let's just see what's going on. Let's see this in action. Whoop. What happened? Uncaught script 34. Comment value 0. Hello, hello. Let's see if this works. All right, we're getting some information back.
Go back a little below.
Hello, Tom. Let's see, it's not return post. Is that the same document request? Just it's not actually changing anything right there. Let's position 0. I am going to debug some stuff. Does anybody see anything out of the ordinary? We're getting the right responses back.
Back to the back to the logging.
That default comment. I want to see this one again. Uncomp promise JSON at position 0. Then async script at 34. I'm going to do some console logging to see and debug this. So I'm going to return this. The console. Let's see if it says anything. Give a response. Position 0. Let's Google this. Haven't seen this before. Uncaught. We have React, unexpected token. H at position 0. 36. Response.json. Keep going. At 36. HTML index. Oh, on. Hello, Tom. So we're actually getting it right here. That's the response we're getting back. So we're response.json, then JSON element. This is weird.
It's a little off topic, but part of the reason I like when we get stuck during a lecture and see things that we don't expect is because that's how it is. That's how you're gonna spend most of your time. If you're making a video to like a YouTube video as a tutorial, it's easy to make a perfect video where everything works, and if you make a mistake, re-record it. But that's not how actually writing software works. And we'll prepare for lectures, and if we prepare really well, then there won't be any slip-ups. But that's misleading. And I don't want you to think that that's how it'll be when you code. You're not going to be able to just type stuff and have it magically work. You're going to have to constantly check.
My argument with that is that in a lecture where there's a learning experience.
All right, here we go. We got it.
All right, never mind.
See what happened. Just want to see if there's a difference. Stringify comma e.target value. Submit.
I would like to respond to that.
All right. Well,
Yes.
there we
I think
go.
I saw what the back and undo.
Let's go back. Where's that?
Let me see. Response of JSON parentheses.
Response.
To line 29. Undo. Reading.
So with the
Return.
let's see, yeah, let's remove the return. That might be it. Hopefully it is. No. All right, let's look at data of undefined. No. Just gonna grab my code that actually works. Oh. There we go. So let's look at what's happening here. I'm making a post to this API endpoint, taking this endpoint as a variable, it's fetching, making a post request to this endpoint. We're adding some additional data that we're sending to the post request. We're adding a body. We're giving it the value of the comment. And once it goes over to the API endpoint right here, it's going to run some logic on that. It's going to take in data.helloworld, assign it to a message. We're taking the body from the request, which is right here, which is this request, request.body. JSON, it's parsing that data, it's assigning to a variable, and it's going through this if statement. If request.body, if it exists, it's adding another key onto message called data equals hello plus body. Yeah. And then it's the request or the response.body equals the message. So it's coming into here. Let's look at what the response is. We have this body right here. And then we're taking the JSON portion of that. It's console logging it here, which is the data.helloTom. And it's taking that JSON.data, just this value. And it's post response container, which is all the way up here, the document query select, post response, and it's adding inner HTML of that hello Tom. So that's what's going on right here.
I have to do like 25 of these to really get it.
If you just think of like the fetch, and then you just do 2 dot thens afterwards. So when you're getting, just put in the URL where you're going, and then do a dot then, response equals, this is, which is a function, takes in a parameter of response, and it's returning a response.json, and then you do another then off of like that.
You're essentially creating the parameters for the JSON function that you just called above in the first step, right?
Yeah,
With the second.
yeah,
And you're pointing to the place in the JSON file in that second.
yeah. So like this part is essentially that. So it's
Right.
returning this,
And that's that.
and that's the same thing. You're passing that into this function, and your response, like the response, then we can do whatever we want in here. We can do any kind of manipulation, data manipulation. On here, we're doing the front end. We're just parsing data and pushing it towards the front end.
And that's what creates the change visibly for us right now.
On the front end, yeah. Yeah.
It feels like a, like a tumbleweed. It's kind of like,
No, yeah.
out of my head, so.
So all this is regarding like asynchronously, and this is why we do it this way, because you need one thing to finish first, and then it responds back data. That's why we do like all the dot thens. Then do this, and once we get a response, then pass in that response into this function, and then do this. Yeah, you just gotta mess with it and find out like API endpoints and grab data and do some data stuff on it. Kind of like how we do with the sunrise sunset. There's a bunch of APIs that you can go to. Any questions? Yes.